Roy will steer this one in. Anderson goes to knock it down, and then Anderson is run into by Dowd. And Walker has a few words, and Anderson not happy. He goes after Dowd, and now he's going after DeHane.
That's encouraging because it shows that Freddie Anderson's okay. And now Jackson Blake and Faravari. Look at these two.
And Stankoven will take Faravari. Stankoven dropping the mitts with Martin Faravari. Down the ice they go. They still come back up. A couple of rights from Stankoven. And another one, and he connects. Now they go down to the ice, and the linesman will get in there.
And Anderson's being prevented just inside his own blue line from engaging with Dowd, who's now in the box. Stankoven's cut. Logan Thompson was almost at the red line.
That was fun. Hi, everyone. It's Canes Corner Podcast. I am Adam Gold. Thank you very much for spending some of your Veterans Day Eve, because it's still Veterans Day. It's just still not even quite 11 o'clock here in the East. I don't know what time it is in Perth, but shouts to you. I did find out recently that Perth is the city that is furthest away from anything. Like, there's not another city anywhere near it, because it's positioned on the far western part of Australia. This is needless knowledge for you. It's what happens when the Hurricanes lose 4-1 to the Washington Capitals. Also, shouts to our friends in Virginia Beach, California, wherever you are listening to this Canes Corner podcast. If you're in Perth or in California, the Aluminum Company of North Carolina can't help you, but if you ever move back here, they can. They have helped me. Aluminum Company of North Carolina, if it is for the exterior of your home, you can find it right there at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. No good tonight. 4-1. They lose to the Washington Capitals. Capitals are good tonight. They were also opportunistic tonight. Really didn't generate their own offense. At least they didn't generate their own offense that they scored on tonight. We could probably be pretty quick if we start with the good for the Hurricanes, because there wasn't a ton of it. So let's run down the good. Then we'll go through some of the goals. And I want to talk more about big picture stuff rather than dwell on what really was a very mediocre at best performance. But Frederik Andersen was good tonight. What you heard there was, and I don't want to talk about that sequence. What you heard there was the scrum with 5 minutes to go in the first period. Nick Dowd sort of hitting Frederik Andersen. We'll talk about it. But everything that ensued after that. But I thought Andersen was good. He ultimately left the game with about 5.5 minutes to go. After Jordan Staal knocked him over. Wasn't anything else. And it was a concussion spotter. Apparently Freddie's fine. But they had to take him off the ice because that's what we do. We all have to be okay with that. You know, that is modern sports, not just the NHL. It's every sport. Because there is somebody, because sometimes, and you can ask Brian Daboll this, the former coach of the New York Giants, sometimes the players have to be protected from themselves and their coaches. And I'm not accusing Rod Brindamore here of anything. But a spotter in the building thought that maybe there might have been an issue with Freddie because he did stay down on the ice. I think it's probably more an issue with Freddie. And so he had to be taken off and go through protocol. So Pyotr Kochetkov finished the game. I don't really think he did much, but that's fine. So, but I thought Andersen was really good, and we'll highlight some of the good things that he did. Thought he made a couple of excellent saves early. There was a 3-on-1 with LaPierre, Mike Riley, the only defenseman back, and I thought he did a great job to deny the scoring chance there. He robbed Tom Wilson a few times tonight. I thought Freddie was actually very, very good. None of the goals. You can't even dream of a goal that was Freddie's fault. The only one that he could have remotely dealt with would have been Dylan Strome's goal, but it was a breakaway. I don't know. Yeah, you'd love for him to get it, but that ain't on him. And we'll talk about the 3 goals and how they were scored tonight, why they were scored tonight. But I thought Freddie was good. The Stankoven line, very good tonight. Always dangerous. Ehlers, Blake, Stankoven are box office. They are worth watching all the time. And they were good tonight. Matter of fact, 2 of the 3 got 2 of my stars. I thought Andrei Svechnikov was good tonight. We don't see Andre good when the other guys on the line aren't. But they weren't. Andre, I thought, was good. I thought, especially in the third period, I thought Andre was noticeably good. I thought Sean Walker was good tonight. I liked Alexander Nikishin, even though he was partly responsible for the first goal. I like Joel Nystrom tonight. He didn't play a ton, but when he was out there, I thought he looked steady. And I think it's an encouraging sign that Carolina's got so much depth. Sad that Charles Alexis Legault in the game in Toronto on Sunday trying to throw a punch in a post-first period skirmish, and ultimately punches Nick Robertson's skate blade. I don't recommend that, but he had severe tendon damage. I guess it's on the back of his right hand. And he went to the hospital in Toronto. He's going to be out 3 to 4 months as they rehab that. But he was also, I thought, starting to get comfortable. And Carolina right now, without Jacob Slavin, without Jalen Chatfield, my guess is, I don't know, another 2 weeks, maybe. Probably less for Chatfield. He looked fine to me in the locker room, and I think he thinks he's fine. So as soon as he clears protocol, he'll draw back in, and Carolina will be back to having 7 defensemen, with Nystrom maybe being the 7th. Although, maybe Nystrom stays in and Riley goes back to being the 7th defenseman. I wouldn't be completely surprised if something like that happened. But, we'll see. Gavin Bayreuther here is right now as the 7th defenseman. But, again, I thought Jesperi Kotkaniemi was good tonight. He didn't play a ton, but I liked him when he was out there. I thought Taylor Hall was, I think, mostly good tonight. So was Eric Robinson. But there were guys who were really bad tonight, and it had a lot to do with why Carolina lost. And we'll get to that here in a second. I want to go through the goals first, and then we will. And honestly, we're not going to go through Carolina's goals. There was just one. I guess we'll mention it. But let's do the 3 goals that Washington scored tonight, because I do think they tell us a lot about the game. The first goal, about 5 minutes in, Brandon Duhaime scores it. It's his 2nd goal of the year. Duhaime's just, he's a big guy, physical, character player, worker bee. Carolina's got players like that. Will Carrier's a player like that. To a certain extent, Eric Robinson is a player like that. But Carolina was a little bit too casual in their own end, in the corner behind to the right of Freddie Anderson. A, lost control of the puck. Then B, really didn't fight very hard to win it back, get it out of the zone, and ultimately Washington keeps possession. Miller, Keandre, who started off poorly tonight, left Duhaime behind the net. He was there, and then I get not staying with him, but when he comes back in front, he's now your responsibility, and he wasn't there. So Keandre's really, has a big part in the first goal. And Ethan Frank, who's a 27-year-old rookie, kind of evades Seth Jarvis and Jordan Stahl. They kind of, stare at the puck, and I don't know. It happens, right? As Rod Brindamore says, take a breath. Anyway, ultimately, it's in the corner that really this play happens. And then Duhaime is all alone. And they, to me, that's Keandre Miller's responsibility. But there was a lot of guys on the ice that could have done something. And ultimately, it's 1-0. But it's one goal. You can overcome that. And to be honest, the moment that Carolina didn't lose the game, but when you have an opportunity on a power play, and it was Carolina's first power play, which I thought was pretty good, and this doesn't go in, that's
Ehlers sharp out in front, and a huge save on Jarvis by Thompson. You can't draw it up any better, and that is Logan Thompson's best save by far of this first period.
Yeah, that's a pass from Nick Ehlers right in front to Seth Jarvis. It's got to be a goal. Now, did he get all of it? Did he get did Logan Thompson just make an amazing save? I mean, I think it's open for debate. I don't think he got all of it, but I also think Thompson kind of made a great save. And I also think it might have hit the post. Look, it's right there. It's got to be a goal. But it wasn't. And I don't know that deflated anybody. Just that's an opportunity pretty much right away to level the score, and Carolina didn't. And so the period ended 1-0 Washington. I thought Carolina was maybe better than you think in the first period. There were scoring chances there for them. And again, Washington didn't create a ton on their own. The 3-on-1 was a misplay on defense, right? So I think it was a neutral zone turnover. Either way, it's a 3-on-1. Freddie makes a great save. But for Carolina, their own worst enemy tonight, Miller, and I want to go all the way back to the beginning. Well, let me get to the other goals first. I apologize. A little scatterbrained to start. So that goal makes it the Duhaime goal makes it 1-0. Jarvis's chance to equalize is a moment that you didn't grab. Then early second period, Sebastian Aho has the puck just inside the offensive blue line. He's on the left side. Tries a soft backhand pass and kind of whiffs on the pass. John Carlson is right there pressed up against him. And Carlson gets the puck, goes up the boards to Alexander Ovechkin just inside the blue line, who goes across to Dylan Strome, and Strome is alone on Freddie. He goes glove side high, and that makes it 2-0. You needed to get off to a good start in the period. Sebastian Aho gives the puck away. And really just indicative of the night I thought he had. And now it's 2-0. Now, Carolina did get the goal back. That one, anyway. And while Nick Ehlers finishes it, man, Jackson Blake is awesome.
Centered out in front. Anderson gets a piece on Leonard. And the Canes will transition the other way. Ehlers drops it for Blake. Blake going to take advantage of a miscue shot right on. Rebounds available. They score! Nikolaj Ehlers stays with the play and bangs it home. The Canes are on the board. They cut to the Caps lead. It's a 2-1 game.
Yeah, it was a good goal. I mean, great play by Ehlers and Blake. The play starts in the other end with a good Freddie Anderson save. And the momentum that they got from that, I thought they played a good second period. Outshot Washington. I think it was 14-8 in the period. Outchanced Washington in the period. But it was 1-1 in the period because a Carolina mistake gave Washington an opportunity to score, and they did. And Carolina wasn't forcing enough of those mistakes from the Capitals, who were very good tonight. So it's 2-1 after one. Carolina doesn't get a second goal in the frame, but still take the momentum of the second into the third. Things are okay. And then Keandre Miller takes his second penalty of the game. And on that penalty, after winning, Sebastian Aho, one of the rare faceoffs he won tonight, he won it in the defensive end. He wins it back to Mike Riley, and Riley was unable to get the puck out.
In the slot, second opportunity, they score. Jacob Chikrin gets to the front of the net, and a power play goal for Washington. It's a 3-1 lead for the Caps.
I mean, that's a gut punch. You know, you're on the penalty kill. We know how dangerous Carolina's penalty kill can be in terms of scoring goals. And at that point, you needed a spark, something. You win the faceoff. You think, all right, this is an opportunity to get the puck out, and maybe Aho and Jarvis can work a little magic. But Riley's clearing attempt, he chunks it. It was like me when I'm chipping. And I forget who took the initial shot, but Jacob Chychrun, the rebound falls right to him, and Chychrun makes it 3-1. And yet, Carolina still had some opportunities to score. Andre had a couple of good chances. They actually had a puck where they thought was in, but it wasn't completely across the line. I'm not arguing with the call at all. I think they got the call right. First time I saw it, I'm like, I don't think that's across the line. But they reviewed it because it was close. It was probably I don't know, maybe a centimeter, maybe a little bit less than a centimeter of the puck was touching the goal line. It's got to be completely across. Totally understand it. So no goal, not complaining. But if you're Mike Riley, that puck's got to get out. So it'll bring me back to where I almost jumped before we continued the Washington goals. It was the worst game that Keandre Miller has played as a Hurricane. And it was a pretty terrible game from Sebastian Aho tonight. And while we could argue that some of the other best players were varying degrees of uninspiring, I didn't particularly love Seth Jarvis's game tonight, although he had some moments. I mean, he should have scored that goal that made it 1, and there were a couple of other chances that he had. But when you're Sebastian Aho, no shots on goal, just 2 attempts, 3 giveaways, 4 of 10 in the faceoff circle. And I will say this, on home ice in a game that the Hurricanes trail, if Sebastian Aho plays less than 18 minutes, he stunk. Because he's your best forward. And when you're pushing to tie, by the way, he didn't spend any time in the penalty box. When you're pushing to tie and your best forward plays less than 18 minutes, I think the head coach is telling you something. He was no good tonight. And the worst part about that is that I think he's been mostly very good. I mean, the obvious face-off problem we can't overlook, but Aho didn't win a ton of face-offs in Toronto. I think he was 4 out of 12 in Toronto, but I thought he was excellent in the game. You can be good without winning face-offs. It's happened before. But Aho is no good tonight. And I thought Seth was just kind of so-so. And if Carolina's not going to have their top line going, even though Andre was good tonight, if they're not going to have their top line going, it's going to be very, very difficult to get wins against a team like that played as well as soundly as Washington did tonight. Real quick, the Hurricanes on the power play tonight. I thought their power play was better than some people think. It did not score, and ultimately that's bad. And the last 2 power plays were no good. But I thought the first 3, they had chances to score. And I think it was it early in the second period? Yeah, Carolina's down 1-0 after 1. Jordan Martinook draws a power play right away in the second period. And Aho had a great chance from the slot. Didn't go. Obviously wasn't on frame, so it didn't count as a shot on goal, but it was a shot attempt. Svechnikov had a deflection try in front, and Jarvis had the puck in tight, and I think he lost the handle. There was a lot of that tonight. There was some imprecision in Carolina's game tonight. But all you want, I mean, let me rephrase that. In lieu of a goal on the power play, what you want is to generate momentum. And I thought Carolina did that with their first 3 power plays. Now, could it be better? Did they give the puck away? Did they clear the offensive zone a few times on their own? Yeah, they did. They made it more difficult on themselves. But I think the first 3 power plays, which generated, let's see, 4 shots on goal, not amazing, obviously, but 12 shot attempts, that I actually think the first 3 power plays looked like they could score. Sometimes they're not going to. Now, the last 2 were trash. And that is a problem. And especially it's a problem when you're the Hurricanes and you've been trying to find any continuity on the power play. And I think it's a pretty simple proposition. And I know there are people, we got to get a power play coach. We got to stop with the silliness here. This is not about a power play coach. This is about your best players. Your best players. Aho, Jarvis, Svechnikov, Ehlers. When Aho's not playing well, the power play suffers. When he's not playing well offensively, the power play suffers. When Jarvis isn't playing well offensively, and he had a hard time with the puck tonight, the power play suffers. Because those 2 guys, along with Ehlers, are the playmakers on this power play. And first night back, I didn't think Shane Gostisbehere was spectacular on the power play either. But it ain't about they need a power play coach. That is, like, honestly, it might be the lamest thing ever. Because that's just the easy thing. It's simple. You can make the power play as simple as you want. It is about player movement, puck movement, and quick passing. And we see Carolina do it right. And the same group creates good power. It also starts with a face-off win, which they did a few times tonight, believe it or not, on the power play. Won the face-off and then lost the puck. Win a face-off, give the puck away. So whatever. I'm not going to convince anybody to stop doing that. So I'll stop even mentioning it. But the power play ultimately is 0 for 5, and it is 6 for the season. And it's regardless of whether it's going to look better or not. It's actually looked pretty good the last 7 or 8 games, or 6 or 7 games. Again, I think it's looked, for the most part, good. Ultimately, it's got to score. And that really falls on the guys. It falls on the players. But again, they were 4 for their last 14 over the last 7 games. And based on the 0 for 5 tonight, obviously 4 for their last 19, which is still better than they have been over the course of the year. And we complain, and they're 11-5-0. So, again, this was a game that I think Carolina could have gotten something out of, could have gotten at least into overtime if they don't make the last mistake that leads to the Chychrun goal. So you can trace pretty much not all the losses, because I thought they were better than Vegas, or at least as good as Vegas in Vegas, apart from a couple of turnovers that lead to goals. And I thought the game here against Vegas was right there. But again, a couple of late mistakes lead to goals. And tonight at 2-1 after that second period, I thought Carolina was right there. But they didn't take advantage of some opportunities. And then you make the final mistake in the Riley failed clear, and it's behind Freddie Anderson. But I do think it's important to just mention one thing. This was the worst game K'Andre Miller had played. Now, he missed a handful of games, obviously. But Miller's been really good in every game other than tonight, to like varying degrees. But he has been a plus player. Well, I'm not talking about plus or minus. A positive influence on the game Every game except tonight. And what do you see? Well, this is what Ranger fans hated. Yeah, everybody hates when one of your best players has a bad game. And then we get other people who go, is Miller really one of Carolina's best players? Yeah, he is. Why is that hard to admit? He's an excellent player. He didn't play well tonight. Stunk tonight. Just like Sebastian Aho didn't play well tonight. Nobody's saying, is Aho really one of the best players? Yeah, he is. And it looked like he was starting to play well. And tonight was a setback. It was a bad game. I trust Aho will be much better against Vancouver on Friday because rarely do you see him stink 2 games in a row because he was bad tonight. And I think you'll see Jarvis snap back and play better. And I don't play the, this is the 6th or the 4th game in 6 days. Carolina is usually fine with that. They're like twice as likely to win the second game of a back-to-back than anything. So there were certainly some mistakes, and the mistakes cost them tonight. The mistakes nearly cost them in Toronto, but they generated more chances in Toronto, because mostly Toronto, and they were able to capitalize. Tonight, that was not the case. So let me get to a couple of other, I think, good things. And it's the development of the young defensemen. Because if you are Brind'Amour or Tim Gleason, who really runs the blue line, you got to be really encouraged. Again, Charles Alexis Legault is starting to get it. But Joel Nystrom, I thought, again, without being repetitive, as he's about to be repetitive, I thought Nystrom showed that he can play, that he's a viable option. I still think that when we get closer to the trade deadline and therefore the playoffs, I think the Hurricanes still going to have to add some, like a veteran on the back end. But Nystrom, Nikishin has been really good. It's unfortunate that Riley makes the mistake, but for the most part, Riley has been really good. He didn't play a ton tonight. Carolina loaded up on Miller and Walker. Sorry, Miller wasn't good. That when you're playing him as many minutes as he played tonight, that's noticeably bad. But Gostisbehere stepped in and played reasonably well as well. But Nikishin was excellent. And he is getting better and better and better, and I can't wait. And as I say that, he was part of the problem on the first goal. But I think for the most part, Rod's got to be thrilled with what he has seen from Alexander Nikishin. I mean, you got to be thrilled for that. And obviously, the positive development is that, for the team as a whole, is that it does look like Nick Ehlers has kind of figured it all out. He's been I think, a significant plus to the lineup, offensively and in making plays away from the puck. Again, remember, his steal leads to the Stankoven goal in Toronto that gives Carolina the lead, the 5-4 lead. It was just a great individual effort and a play. And I thought he was very good tonight. Like, as badly as Carolina played or as many mistakes as they made and who made them, that was still a one-shot hockey game until Riley fails to clear the puck. That's it. That's the margin. That's as bad as Carolina theoretically was tonight, and I'm not saying they were good. I think they had moments where they were good. That was very much a winnable hockey game. So, but you got to get more out of your best players. When you don't, and the Hurricanes, when they do leave themselves open like this, like anybody else, you are vulnerable to a loss. And that's exactly what happened tonight. But I think in large part, now we are basically at the 20% mark of the season. So what does Carolina have? They've got 11 wins, 22 points. If you multiply that by 5, 110 points. I don't think it's worth complaining about at this point. Pardon the pun. I don't. Just a loss where your two of your best players played poorly. Jarvis didn't play well, but I wouldn't put Jarvis in the category of Aho and Miller tonight. And you just didn't take advantage enough of the chances that were there. And I didn't mention the goal. Maybe I did mention the goal that was chalked off. Yeah, I did. We talked about it. I guess it was never given as a goal anyway. So, but if it was clearly across the line, it would have been called a goal, but it wasn't. Okay, real quick about I meant to say this before, and this will be the last thing we talk about. I want to get to the scrum on the Anderson goaltender interference call on Nick Dowd. When I saw the play live, not joking, when I saw the play live, I thought I had no problem with the Dowd hit because it wasn't a hit. I had zero problem with Nick Dowd. I get the whole we want to protect your goaltender, therefore everything that happened after that. I'm not saying that the Hurricanes shouldn't have done anything. But I have zero problem with what Nick Dowd did. I do think Carolina was fortunate to end up with a power play there. I do. Because I don't see a penalty on Dowd at all. But Dowd goes to the box for goaltender interference. Freddie goes behind his net to play the puck. He probably shouldn't have been there in the first place. You go behind the net to play the puck. I'm not saying you can get checked. But that's not what Nick Dowd did. He didn't check Freddie. I don't even think he was looking at him. Now, I get it. Peripheral vision, you should be able to see a goaltender there. But there wasn't enough contact for me for Freddie to fall the way he fell. So, my view of the play live was I got no problem with Dowd. And then I also had no problem with how everybody reacted because, honestly, the Hurricanes had fallen a little sleepy. So it's okay to get yourself jazzed up. But again, no problem with Dowd. I didn't understand why he goes to the penalty box. I thought Freddie took a dive. And when they called Freddie for a penalty, if they had said embellishment as opposed to what they call him for roughing, okay, then I think that would have been accurate because I do think he embellished. And let me say this. I'm not entirely sure that Freddie didn't embellish the stall when Stahl fell on him to try to sell for a call. And because he didn't know that it was Stahl. And when Freddie stays down on the ice, maybe that's the reason he gets pulled. Fortunately, it didn't matter at that point because it was already 3-1. But I didn't think there was enough contact there for a penalty on Washington. And then with everything that happened, somehow Carolina ended up with a power play. But obviously they did not score on it. Look, I'm not even saying that the power play doesn't have to get better. The power play is going to have to. But I'm just not as we got to go get a power play coach. We need a power play coordinator. Andy Reid could coach Carolina's power play. Anyway, tonight's game against Washington boils down to some of your best players weren't very good at all. And Carolina needs more out of their best players on a night-in, night-out basis. So when it's not there, it can be noticeable. And you had too many of the top guys not going. Also, very noticeable. And that will do it for us. I am Adam Gold. This has been the Canes Corner podcast. We are brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it is for the exterior of your home, you can find it there, aluminumcompany.com. Flush it. Move on. Vancouver us on Friday. The Connor McDavids are here Saturday. We'll be here after both games. And better things will happen. Good night.